Okay, so hello everyone coming on today, and welcome if this is your first Content UK webinar. I'm Christina, and Content UK is, as you can tell by the name, it's a community for content marketers in the UK, and we have a bunch of workshops like this one and a Slack community where we all hang out together and learn from each other, and that's Content UK. And this recording will be available to any members next week, but if you're not a member, we've actually got a code for a free month's trial. So if you use the code, I think it was, I'll send this over in an email, but I think it's Carrie Rose -content up until Friday at midnight on the Content UK website. You can get a month free and then check out everything. So yeah, that's enough about Content UK. But yeah, today we've got Carrie joining us. I'm just going to be talking all about whether there is space for creativity within search. And if you haven't heard of Carrie Rose yet, she's basically a really super inspiring founder and CEO of the agency Rise at 7 at the age of 27, which is incredible. And she's that powerhouse this agency through lots of authenticity, which I think is just so inspiring. And yeah, I'll hand over to Carrie to talk about more about what she's done at Rise. And if you've got any questions, pop them into the Q&A section, and at the end we'll put those forward to Carrie to answer. Cool.
Amazing. Thank you so much. It's really, really kind of you to say those things. I'll just share my screen as we do. Oh, ignore my whole desktop, it's an absolute mess. Okay, so when I put this talk together, I spoke to Christina, and essentially I knew that a lot of the people on here are both like, whether that's creatives, like content strategists, social media and PR. So I really wanted to create something that was a bit of a mix of everything, kind of tying in my expertise, I guess, showing some examples of what brands have done and the sort of takeaways you can take from that, whether it's you're working with big or small brands, but also some of the work that we've done, but just to kind of inspire you and show you like what's really possible. So I'm going to be talking about the space for creativity within search. This is something I've always been passionate about. I've worked in SEO for 7 or 8 years, something like that overall, creating content, which is either there to get links for PR point of view, get shared or get traffic driven to it. So that's basically been my background pretty much throughout my whole career since graduating. And creativity within search has always been something that I'm passionate about, because I never really thought SEO was that creative. But like, that sounds really bad to say that about our industry, but I always remember kind of championing how we can be more creative in search. So this talk is all about that. So just to start with a bit of a quote, as we all do, are we a slave to keywords and landing pages, or is there some room for creativity? This talk is going to be full of lots of inspiration and case studies. I often find that when I do talks like this, people like to see like real life examples of it being actually happening rather than just kind of theory stuff. So yeah, I've made sure I've included lots of it to inspire you guys. Essentially, this is what the market looked like when I joined it. Well, not when I joined it, but when I was looking to launch my own agency. We had kind of technical SEO on this side and then creative and advertising on this side. And I knew one day that the creative advertising agency will jump over the fence into kind of search marketing, or search marketing will jump over the fence into creative and advertising. I knew one way one of them were going to jump over the fence. That didn't happen. So what I actually decided to do is, instead of just kind of choosing one or the other, why don't we merge them? Why don't we look at the way that, as an SEO, that creative and advertising execute their work, the way that they create content offline to build brand? And I found that really interesting. So I basically launched Rise at 7. Rise at 7 is a search first creative agency. We do everything for SEO, but we really tied those kind of two disciplines together for the first time. And we're about, well, I say 18 months, we're just about to come up to 2-year-old. So really young as an agency, really, when you look at like some have been going for 15 plus years, but we attracted clients like this from day one. And that's wild. But we did that because of our offering. We noticed that, okay, we brought SEO and we brought brand and creative together. Like, that's what these brands wanted. And I found that really interesting. And obviously I've got loads of examples to show you guys. But ultimately, what the strategy is there to do is to get more people to search for your brand plus their keyword. So for an example, instead of just searching for, I don't know, flights to Maldives or Maldives flights, or that's an example, more people search for TUI Maldives or Maldives flights. So trying to get as many people to search for your brand plus the keyword is ultimately what we do. Or we help them come up when people aren't searching for your brand. So a good example is this big creative campaign by John Lewis every single year, the Christmas ad. Essentially this year that I'm talking about, I think it's about 3 years ago, something like that. It was when it was all around Elton John, and the big push was around pianos. So they was trying to push the pianos as a product. And essentially they spend 7 million, I think it is. I read an article about John Lewis, their Christmas ads. They spend 7 million every single year creating this Christmas ad. And this one was all around pianos. But if you typed in pianos at that moment in time, this is a screenshot of basically the results. John Lewis did not come up at all. And I was thinking they never even ranked for the keyword or product they were pushing. So they spent all this money pushing John Lewis as a brand, pushing the product of pianos, and they never even ranked for it anyway. So content lacked, PR, and even like from a search strategy point of view, they didn't even create landing pages or anything like that at the time. I've noticed definitely over the last couple of years, John Lewis has got a lot more kind of clever in terms of creating landing pages. If you have a look and just have a quick Google, these landing pages are getting links now. So you can see that like it is a tactic they're trying to kind of integrate their big brand advertising campaigns in with search and content. But I found it really interesting that at that moment in time, they didn't even rank for pianos at all. So what is creativity and why is it important? So obviously, a bit of a summary, AI and machines are taking over our marketing. We all know that. Everything's being automated. I hate automation. I don't know why. I think it's not very human. It quite annoys me when we just expect robots to do everything for us. And one thing that machines cannot do yet is manufacture creativity. They just can't. There was a quote, if you want to future proof your brain, you just need to make it more creative. So if you're thinking about, okay, the future of you and your career, how do you kind of make sure that you're constantly staying ahead of the game? Just be more creative. I actually saw a talk by a guy called Jason Miller from Microsoft. And I thought it was one of the best talks I've ever seen. And it was inspired by this one, actually. And what he said is, if there's one thing you can focus on to differentiate yourself from others and make sure you stay relevant for longer than others, is being creative. And it was so true. So this was a list of the most important skills by the World Economic Forum. And in 2015, they basically put creativity 10th, the 10th most important skill that anyone can have. Fast forward to 2020, is now 3rd. I haven't looked at a 2021 list. I don't know if it's out yet, but I'm probably assuming it's high up there. Being creative in search is giving a brand that something just money can't buy. It's about building organic brand search. So I've definitely noticed over the last couple of years when we've built campaigns and content that isn't just there just to serve an SEO purpose, but it's also to build brand. You notice that branded search kind of like increases. I did a campaign about maybe 3 months ago, and we noticed for our client, we increased branded search by 26%. That's huge, by the way. Like that's a lot. 26% more people were searching for the brand rather than just like organic keywords. I found that crazy. And it's about getting links just because you're awesome. So your content, it's creating content that isn't just serving a purpose to drive traffic, but your content naturally gets links too. So I've got plenty of examples of that. I actually talked about this as a quote in 2020, and I still think it exists today. In 2020, links will become less about search and more about engagement. So the responsibility will fall on SEOs and content marketers to build content and links that actually get clicked on and push the brand through wider platform engagement. So it's no longer all about like these SEO kind of metrics. You need to think about building brand and engagement through your content. So this isn't new. So although, you know, I launched Rise at 7 thinking like this is going to be something that nobody's ever done before, being creative in search is not new. And here's some examples of big brands being creative with keywords, for an example. So if you don't already know this, really, really fun. Snickers, they have their obviously big advertising campaign where it's like, you're not you when you're hungry. Essentially, this was a PPC strategy where they played with some keywords. What they did is, whenever somebody misspelled a word, such as like weather or definitely or vacuum, so common misspelled words, they basically bidded on them to say, you're not you when you're hungry. And Snickers obviously came up and it drove 500,000 ad impressions. So that's just like a real creative way of getting your brand in front of audience just through playing with some ad copy. That's all it was. And because of that campaign, they got mentioned in all the biggest digital press. So I think it got on like Ad Age, it got on like Campaign Live, multiple kind of marketing publications all around Snickers capitalizing on misspelled searches. Really, really kind of like innovative, but it just shows you can be creative with PPC copy. This one is probably one of my favorite. It's still live to this day. So if you have a quick Google after this, it's called IKEA Retail Therapy. Essentially, they've created like I don't know if it's a microsite or just a section of their site. I can't really remember off the top of my head. But essentially what they've done is they've renamed their products on their website. So a single bed, for an example, to be the name of what people are actually searching for in terms of a problem. So for an example, the single bed, they've renamed it to My Partner Snores. So if you're Googling remedies of my partner snoring and like, you know, how to solve that, they're basically selling a single bed. Or what else is there? There was a can opener. Where's that one? Oh yeah, why men can't open up. So when people are searching like why men can't open up, there's a can opener there. So just like really playing with like copy with their products. But this got a shit ton of links and press coverage, but lots of social shares and engagement too. So it got featured on Adweek, Entrepreneur, The Drum, Board Panda, you name it. It got 316 domain links. And all this is product copy. So product title copy. So I think there's a lot of things we can learn in terms of what to call your products and how you can play with that from a content perspective to not only just serve a purpose from a search point of view, but to be a bit cheeky, a bit better out there to get links and press coverage and noise too. Being creative with your actual products. So obviously it's not the easiest to promote some products that we work with. You know, I've worked on vaping websites, I've worked on car insurance, you know, not the sexiest of brands, but this is just an example of a taboo brand. So Pornhub, how the hell does Pornhub create content on their website that gets links, that gets multiple press talking about them? You got to think like no national publication wants to talk about Pornhub. Like it's just obviously adult industry, like we all stay away from it from an advertising point of view. But what Pornhub did is they create multiple campaigns. One of their things, I don't know whether you can look at it on your work laptop, but there's a safe part of their website, which is called Pornhub Insights. If you haven't seen it, worth checking out. Essentially, it's just like data behind their searches on their website. So like what people are interested in, things like that. Like that sort of data, like they needed to not only be, you know, a leader in the adult industry, but also create content that drives traffic, gets links from press. And that's what they've ultimately done. So I actually get a lot of my inspiration from taboo brands like this because they have to really push creative boundaries to get, you know, good content on their website that people actually care about. So this is one example where they basically created, it's a bit random, they basically created a band called the Wank Band. And essentially what it was a fake product, so it weren't real, you couldn't actually buy it, but it was a concept of when you do your thing, it generates electricity to charge your phone. So it was basically a real fake product, how it works. They did testimonials. I think they like created some fake ones and did like fake influencer marketing videos, like real kind of went out there on YouTube and stuff like that. But it landed in all the press. It got 508 domain links from Adweek, Gizmodo, Engadget. So it's just really useful to look at these taboo brands or boring brands and just really understand what is it that they're doing? What is it that they're doing to push boundaries in creativity and create content that gets shared and drives traffic. This is just an example of a product actually on Missguided's website. So if you don't already follow me, I've talked a lot about this on my Twitter, but I kind of tell you the behind the scenes of it. Essentially, Missguided sold, when was it? 2 years ago, they basically sold jumpers for your dog. That's all it was. And it didn't sell that well. And they said to the owner said to me, Carrie, I've got 2,000 jumpers sat in a warehouse somewhere. Like, help me flog them. Like I need to get rid of them. Surely you can come up with something PR worthy for that. Like, what can we have on our website for it? I come up with a whole strategy where I basically took a look at the jumpers, and there was just like grey, like Christmas jumpers, and there was another one that was like a white roll neck, like turtleneck jumper. And I was like, have you got matching ones as an adult? Like if I could wear a matching jumper with my dog, and there was like, pretty sure we could find one on our website. Like we've got plenty of products. So anyway, I crawled through their website, found a matching jumper similar to the dog one. Took me 10 minutes to produce, and I pushed it out that Missguided now do matching jumpers for you and your dog. Got 77 links, drove 82,000 people to the website, but that's because we went to publications like Tyler, Hello Magazine, Cosmopolitan. These publications are the perfect audience that love this sort of stuff. We do a lot of analysis of understanding where Missguided's audience are in terms of what publications they're reading, where we should put up content, and that's just using BuzzSumo. I'll definitely be able to show you more about that later. But ultimately we sold out. We did things like we sent lots of jumpers to influencers. Everybody was like influencers with their little puppies and stuff wearing the jumpers and stuff on Instagram, and lots on YouTube as well. And this is just a way of a 10-minute turnaround campaign, getting 77 odd links, pushing Missguided brand out there, but also selling a product too. So you can be creative what already exists. This isn't something we just came up with overnight and like produced jumpers in a warehouse. They already existed, and we just needed to find a PRable hook really to get it out there. And another example is this one. So this one we actually created. We don't always work with like sexy brands, by the way. Some of them are quite boring. But this one's a company called Ricky. They're a sex toy provider. Really small brands, so they're up against the likes of Ann Summers and stuff like that, and essentially they needed to dominate press because they were small time. There was just a startup company. They needed to create products that was press worthy in themselves. Easter was coming up, and there was like, can we do something around Easter? Long story short, we created the world's first Kinder Egg for adults, where inside of the chocolate egg was actually a sex toy rather than a little toy. And it went wild. Like everybody went like and bought it. There was like 12, we produced about 200 of them. And all we did is took their sex toys and wrapped it with chocolate. It cost like £2. Honestly, it cost like £2 to wrap these in chocolate and get some packaging. And we produced 200 of them, and we made around 12k of revenue, drove 43,000 people to the website. But what we did then is the interesting part. So we sold out of those 200 Easter eggs pretty fast, within about a few days max. And essentially, once we'd sold out, instead of the buy now button, we flipped it into a email entry form. So basically, when you sell out, we sold out of these, but when they come back in stock, we'll notify you straight away. And we did that across a couple of the other products that we was pushing at the time. And long story short, over that couple of day period, we gathered 10,000 email addresses. And for a small startup brand like Ricky, 10,000 email addresses is huge. That means we could remarket to them like instantly. So we knew, you know, these people wanted sex toys. These people who was interested in this sort of content, and we could remarket to them like that. So definitely think of ways you could work with, if you're not already working in kind of PR or, you know, that sort of thing. Understand how your PR efforts as a content marketing strategy can also help for email marketing and things like that. That's just one little strategy that we did for Ricky. Being creative with copy. So you probably know this. It's quite a famous case study in our space. If you don't, really interesting story. Essentially, the iPhone 6S and the Samsung S6, I have to be really clear because it's like hard to kind of say that sometimes. They both launched at the same time. So they're, you know, direct competitors. And essentially, what happened is Samsung bidded on terms for the iPhone 6S with like awkward, you obviously mean the S6, and that was just, again, fun copy PPC ad like creative, and they got 1,300% click-through rate and 25 media placements off the back of that. We actually did something quite similar to this for PLT recently. It's a bit cheeky, so don't I hope that it doesn't offend anyone, but essentially Topshop, when it got bought out, Topshop then moved into ASOS, moved into ASOS, and essentially when you search for Topshop, their website still came up, but it was just saying we've moved to ASOS, like see you there kind of thing. So the website was still there, and what we wanted to do, and people were still searching for the brand Topshop because they didn't know that it moved into ASOS. So you could clearly see there's a bit of confusion in the fashion industry. So what we did at PLT is we bidded on Topshop terms. So whenever people basically searched for Topshop because they wanted to buy something from them, we basically did some fun ad copy like awkward, like come to us where we actually exist still to this day or whatever. It was really cheeky copy, to be fair. But yeah, we got really good results from that for driving traffic to the website, and something a bit out there, a bit different. And this is really blurry because it was something I screenshotted literally years ago. So it's not just because of the quality of that, but it's just because it was so old. But this was done in 2010, I think. Essentially, there was a British Airways strike at Christmas, and Anne Summers did some really fun copy, and it said, the planes may be grounded, but you can still take off all our toys. So they just amended their meta description copy just to be cheeky around the British Airways strikes. Really, really fun just to play with copy. And then they did the exact, so this one was 2010. Then they did the exact same with the election. So it was the 2010 election, and they did things like, visit Anne Summers and find out why we believe in a well-hung parliament, or we specialize in long, hard elections, visit us online today. This wasn't ads, it was just meta description copy. So it's really interesting of how, they did put some ads behind it, actually. I remember this, especially this one. And he actually gave us some insight. So this is the Jason Miller talk that I listened to. He gave us some insight that they only spent 4,500 on ad copy, but it did really well in terms, it got 1.5 million views. It got mentioned on BBC, Guardian and Independent. But you can be really cheeky with this sort of stuff. You don't always have to put money behind it. And then here's an example of being creative offline for search. This is a really in-depth case study that we ran, but I really wanted to show you guys like how I thought about every angle from a content marketing perspective. So a bit of a story, Parkdean Resorts. Parkdean Resorts are basically like Haven. So if you've ever been to like Butlins or Haven holidays, they do kind of like UK holiday trips in caravans and lodges. So Parkdean came to us with a brief just as COVID-19 hit. So obviously the travel industry completely went on a halt. And they said, Project Boom, that's what they called it. We need to dominate staycation market in organic, meaning that when the world opens up again and the only place they can go is UK holidays, we want to make sure that they come to Parkdean rather than any other brand. They pulled PPC budgets. So they said, we're not spending any PPC over the next few months. And I don't think they spent it for about 6 to 8 months, but they told Rise at 7 to go big for when lockdown ends. We knew we needed links. That's always something that we knew, that the website needed links, and it needed a lot of them, but we needed much more than that too. We wanted to run campaigns and create content that genuinely got Brits to love to stay in the UK. So we had to think, okay, we have to not only send the message that like, right, we're all stuck here probably for the next 12 months, but you better love it as well. Like it's actually, the UK has a lot to offer. So there was obviously a window of period where we could actually go and travel to Cornwall and things like that during last summer. And that's the opportunity that they wanted to dominate. So we launched this. This was a campaign called Sandtone. Essentially what I did is I went on a road trip, but I actually came up with this idea years ago and I started collecting sand. So I went on a road trip and I collected a little sample of sand from every single beach in the UK. And I think there's about, well, every beach that I've been to, and there was about 50, something like that we collated. I think there's like 300 beaches, by the way, in the UK. We collated around 50 of them. But essentially, we created a sample of sand from, you know, beaches in Scotland, beaches in St. Ives, in Cornwall, in Skegness, you know, like beaches all across the UK. And we basically matched the colour of the sand with Pantone colours to see where is the whitest sand versus where is the darkest murky brown. And this obviously was to highlight like the beauties around just our corners, the beaches that are available to us with the most beautiful sands that look like you're in Greece or look like you're in, you know, Barbados, etc. And this is ultimately like a user journey, or what an ideal user journey looks like. So you target customer Googles, like Google Cornwall holidays, for an example, and they click through to Parkdean site. Like that's obviously a dream. Imagine if you call people are Googling Cornwall holidays, they click through to Parkdean site and they engage with the page of the website. They then consume all the content that we've done around Cornwall location pages, and then they book a stay with Parkdean. That's a dream. That's not a reality. That's not really what happens. Even booking a staycation is a fairly complex decision with lots of research required. So here's what a real user journey looks like in the travel space. So we create our campaign. So we get in front of an audience to push people to go to Cornwall or whatever locations it was. They engage with the payment, browse that site. And then what do? Is they leave the page. they're thinking about it. They're thinking about, should I go on holiday? Where should I go? What month should I go to? And this is where over the coming weeks and coming months, people are searching. So we created a whole content hub all around best months to visit Cornwall, the price of a holiday, and we created content after content that basically meant that any search that came up around Cornwall holidays, the areas that we was trying to push around White Sands and things like that, that we had an answer to them. But we also created content across social. So when they're not searching, they're scrolling through Instagram, Park Dean comes up. When they're on TikTok, Park Dean comes up. So we basically created a strategy where we're not just thinking about search as a result or an activity. It's essentially when people are not searching, how else do we get the brand in front of them? So we created multiple assets to basically get the brand in front of them to then make a buying decision. And it looked like this. So we created a landing page. The landing page was everything from find your perfect shade of summer. You could scroll through St. Ives, Blackpool, like it's 54 beaches that we could click on, and it showed you like the best holiday parks to stay nearby. So you could explore them by color, basically. So if you are interested in like going somewhere that's like really white sands, or if you like rocky kind of dark colors like Greece, you know, like where to go. So it was real kind of like engaging and visually pleasing. We obviously did like mobile versions of this as well. We did paid social assets. So whenever people was looking or talking about like Devon or Dorset or Cornwall or anywhere like that, then ads came up. We also did some partnerships with Visit Cornwall. So we've got content out there with local press. We created an Instagram filter so that when people was looking for your next beach destination, we did an Instagram filter and it chose it for you. When I did it, it kept coming up that I was going to, I think it was Cleethorpes, and I was like, I'm not going to Cleethorpes. And we did everything from billboards to digital PR. So we pushed where is the whitest sand in Britain, and it got on I think it got on Cosmo, it got on Daily Mail, Telegraph, you name it, it got on all these national publications. And we even created little pots of paint in the colours of the sand. So for an example, you could get a sand tone paint, just like Pantone, in the shade of Cleethorpes. We thought of every single angle of like, okay, when people are deciding on where to go, we created content to make sure that we was always there. As a result, we drove over the summer period, we drove 358 domain links back to the website, 250% increase in traffic as a result of thinking about cross-channel strategy. And this is just the visibility for Park Dean and Haven. So Haven was their biggest competitor. We overtook Haven real quickly. This is an interesting part in terms of online market share. Essentially, the screenshot on the left-hand side is before the campaign and before summer. And this is when lockdown had lifted. We had around 16-17% market share. And then at the end of the lockdown, we had 27-28% market share. And as you can see, the brand we actually stole it from was Ho Seasons. Ho Seasons didn't do a lot during that period of time. And it just showed you that when you put the energy and effort into dominating something, when your competitors are quiet, that's where you can steal the voice. And we sold out. So obviously, everybody was stuck in the UK last year, so no one could really go anywhere else. But that meant that the idea was that we needed to sell Park Dean resorts, and we did. Completely sold out of UK holidays. So going back to this quote, you know, links is less about search, more about engagement. Let's think about content and a wider perspective. And this is really kind of where we come up with an example of how we come up with content strategy. How do we know what an audience wants? So Missguided ranked in 6th position for lingerie. It's a big part of their strategy. They really want to sell like beautiful bras and pants, and they ranked 6th and couldn't move the needle. They really struggled. We knew that lingerie has around 201,000 searches per month. Obviously, it's very kind of seasonal, with like Valentine's being a big part of it, also summer as well, but it was a big search term for them. This is just illustrative of the sort of traffic you should expect for lingerie and the conversion rate. But we ultimately knew the value of, if we got them to position 1 to 3, for an example, what the value of that would be. And that's what we worked out from a commercial perspective of, okay, which areas do we need to grow based on the value? So we knew that lingerie ranking 6th, but the value of that is £5,656 per month, as an example. We knew that that is a good area to target, whereas beach cover-ups has like a less, it's least valuable basically for Missguided from a commercial perspective. when we looked into kind of competitors, I looked into Bow Avenue and Boohoo. So they was the two competitors that ranked above them, that dominated their space in the top two searches, basically, top two positions. And we knew that, okay, Missguided had, what this is telling me is that Boohoo have, no, I'll get this mixed up. Missguided had 25 more links than Boohoo into the lingerie section of their website, and Bow Avenue had 208 more. So you could clearly see that Bow Avenue had a lot more links into their lingerie section of their website, and it was all from national press. But we thought, okay, well, if we've got more links than Boohoo, but Boohoo rank above us, all we really need is some good content on the website, internal links into it, and just a handful of external links from press. So I looked into how are they getting links, and it was very much kind of product placement. So the best bras for small breasts, Valentine's gifts for 2020, exquisite designs for every bride. That's basically what they was doing in terms of pushing their content out there. Really, really simple stuff. So we did a campaign. We basically looked into, this was really interesting. So if you go on to GA, you can look at your site search, and this is something that you can really understand, like user behavior. And essentially, when Boris Johnson announced that lockdown had lifted, literally within a couple of hours, we saw a 300% increase in lingerie searches, so on site search, which is mental. So around, I can't think off the top of my head, but it basically went up 300%, like really, really fast. And we're thinking, like, why is that? And obviously it's because Boris Johnson announced that lockdown had ended and people was getting their groove on, basically. And this was just a stat that we could push out to press. So we did. So we pushed out that, you know, lingerie sales surged by 300%, pushed out some like additional stats around searches and behavior and all that sort of stuff because of Boris Johnson's announcement. And we landed press like this. All we built is 6 links. It weren't a big viral campaign. It weren't anything crazy. We just built 6 links because ultimately what the holy grail is to build links into the category pages. So this data piece then built links into lingerie as a section, which is the holy grail. And then we created content on the blog. So we did everything from Missguided's audience are very like sexual in terms of their like content and like their Instagram and things like that. So we did a lot of like sexual content, partnerships. We did like how to style. One of their best content pieces actually, which I should have included in this, is the best lingerie for your star sign. So like if you're Pisces, this is like the sort of lingerie you should wear, or Scorpio, etc. So this sort of blog content, we built it out around lingerie with internal links into the lingerie section. And then we did another campaign on the side of that, which is really fun. It was called Netflix and Chill. And essentially we analyzed every Netflix series, and we ranked them for their ability to be creating chill. So it looked into the average length of the series, how like hot the actresses or actors were, the genre, and it had a score system basically, and it revealed that Breaking Bad was the Netflix and Chill series of the year. Really interesting thing that we then did, obviously, like internal links into lingerie, internal links into like chill clothing and things like that. And we ranked #1 for lingerie. It didn't take that much to get us to rank #1, just a bit of blog content, some really fun campaigns, 6 links into the website, and that's all it really took. And this piece of content was real shareable. We didn't get many links for this. This is a content campaign where it was really engaging for the user, and 50,000 people have landed on this piece of content, which is really, really interesting. So all it takes was 6 links, direct category links and internal links. And this one is really interesting as an example. So we saw that, this is coming up to an end now, but we saw that demand for UK staycations were on the rise after COVID-19. There was a huge demand for outdoor pools and outdoor hot tubs. We needed to close the gap and steal positions from competitors. So ultimately what we did is we noticed that on SpaSeeker's website, if you go into kind of the top navigation and click into package types, they didn't even have anything to do with outdoor pools or outdoor hot tubs. So they didn't even have any quality content on the website talking about outdoor pools and hot tubs. So one thing that we looked into is they had 2 sections on their website. They had guides, so all around travel guides and lifestyle guides, and then they had blog. And those two things basically was the same thing. And what we noticed is when you look into the visibility of the blog and guides, the blog is the blue line and the guides is the red. The blog didn't even have much visibility. We was producing blog content and we had one girl, basically this internally, it's Spa Seekers creating blog content constantly, and it just didn't hold the value, whereas the value was in the guides. So we got rid of a lot of shit. We got rid of a lot of 350 blog pages that just weren't getting any traffic. There was there for nothing but keywords. Like it was just obvious that it had been produced years back, and we just got rid of them. We rewrote 300 pages onto the guide, and then we moved all of the blog into the guide to then boost the value. Then we created landing pages. So when people were searching for spas with outdoor pools, you could, on the website, you actually had a landing page. So you can see on this screenshot here, if you go on package types, we had things like bed and breakfast, one night stays, luxury spas, Mother's Day. We actually added one called outdoor pools and hot tubs. So this was every spa with an outdoor pool and hot tub. This is obviously a landing page, which then we could internally link to with external content. We created on-site content such as UK's spa gazing hotspots. So where's the best place to go and sit in a hot tub, you know, in like the gardens and watch the stars. 10 of the best spas based on TripAdvisor reviews and things like that. We did a dream job where you become a hot tub tester, got 169 links, a load of traffic into the website. But this is then content. It was a job ad where you could actually become a hot tub tester, go and test hot tubs in summer. This is 2 years ago. And this had all internal links into the outdoor hot tub section, which was really interesting. Got a load of press coverage, and we took over our closest competitor as a result of this. So Spa Breaks at the time was the closest competitor. We just took over them, which was really fun. And overall, we basically drove 142% increase in revenue from just the guide section. And we got position on 1 and 2 for hot tubs. And this was just based on, we saw that more people during COVID wanted a spa with an outdoor pool and an outdoor hot tub. So still, if you Google it to this day, I think it is position 1 and 2. But it just shows you how we integrate kind of PR, but also with on-site content, internal links, massively underrated, I think. Yeah, so this is kind of before. So Treatwell ranked number 1. Spa Seekers didn't rank anywhere when you did these searches. Well, now they rank number 1 and number 2. As a result, like lots of obviously search kind of rankings went up, branded search went up 24%, organic revenue up 12%. Really, really interesting kind of like study from my perspective of how you create landing page content with internal links from the blog. Really just, and we turned this around in about, I think 6 weeks. So not long at all, just to get us to position 1 and 2 for these terms. So here's the takeouts. Tip 1. What more can your content do other than generate links? Is there an opportunity to capture email addresses for retargeting? So thinking about, okay, when products sell out, or if there's a landing page that gets a lot of traffic, is there an email capture that you could put on there? Tip 2, have something content on site that people want to click on. Most people get this wrong. So what I've spoke about in this talk quite a lot is how a lot of our content has drove traffic, and a lot of content doesn't drive traffic. Like a lot of content is there for just to serve a purpose for keywords. And that's what I mean by being creative with it, to actually create content that people want to click on. Know your audience and look at search trends, Google trends, and customer behavior. So for an example, we knew that people were searching for lingerie for Missguided, so we pushed it out, created content on the website to get it ranking. We also knew that people wanted outdoor hot tubs and pools. So yeah, really using search trends and Google trends to understand customer behavior to create content is honestly one of the best tips I can advise. We do this quite a lot, very reactive, but it also can be evergreen too. So like the outdoor pools and hot tubs is there for life now. We know that it's getting traffic every single month. Tip 4, track more than just links. So if anybody's on this, that obviously is like a link builder, it's very similar to myself. Did people actually see your campaign? Did they give a fuck about it? Did they share your content? So understanding what to track as well. But look outside of the SEO and content bubble. There's so much that you can see from PPC, from creative, from advertising, from the events industries that you can bring into your space for inspiration. So is there space for creativity within search? Hell yeah. Thank you. felt like I went 100 miles an hour there.
That was brilliant. There's so many useful tips just crammed into there, and lots of examples that everyone can take away for sure. Thank you very much. So if anyone has questions for Carrie, I've got a whole list from what people submitted before, but if you've got any that you want to ask in real time, just pop them in. Yeah, good. So let's start with some of these questions we've got here. So one from Janita, I hope I pronounced that correctly. What would be your advice to someone who wants to create content and land links as a freelance / one-man band? Which I think is a great question, because I know some of those campaigns that you referenced might have a team behind them, but what if somebody is a solo person?
I used to, so the way that I actually started Rise of 7 is I used to do this freelance. So I was a one-man band once myself. And essentially the biggest thing that I did is I created a lot of data-led reports. Data-led reports as a content piece that gets links is the most easiest tactic, because anyone can do that. So I basically look at third-party data, like data that already exists online, to create stories. I'll give you a good example for Spa Seekers. Actually, it was way back, maybe 3-4 years ago. I essentially created something called the relaxation index. What it was is the best city breaks to go and relax in, because I went to Paris, and everyone's like, oh, do you feel relaxed? And I was like, no. I was like, I'm knackered. And it made me think of like, okay, well, city breaks aren't that relaxing. So I wonder what city breaks actually are. So I basically did some research. I pulled a list of every city in Europe, so Barcelona, Paris, like whatever it was. And I basically looked at 5 different factors. So does it have a beach? So I know Paris, I don't think Paris does, but I think Barcelona does, for an example, Madrid, etc. And I basically organized it by busiest airports, so whether it's really hectic and busy, whether it's got good transport links, if the population is really busy or if it's quite dense, etc., etc. So I chose 5 factors, which obviously meant that you're not really going to have a relaxing time, and I scored them of, okay, which one come out on top, which one has got the least busyness, the least hectic, that you can actually go and relax. And I think it came out Copenhagen, that I remember off the top of my head. And yeah, so I basically created this like index report all around where in Europe has the most relaxing city breaks, and I pushed it out to press, and I got 90 plus links on Vogue, Guardian, you name it. And that was just something that I just created, a little table on a website, a piece of content all around relaxing city breaks for our clients, Spa Seekers. So yeah, third-party data and just understanding like how you can research. Like there's so much data out there that you can just use to pull together to create a story. So yeah,
so just using what's already out there and putting it together in a way that other people haven't done yet.
Exactly. Yeah.
And when you're going to press and perhaps influencers, how do you build those relationships in the first place to get them to notice you? If someone's like not very well known, are there any tips that you've got around that?
Yeah, sure. So mostly I use Twitter to build relationships. I'll pull a list of one thing that Twitter does, which I find really interesting. If you go on, when you can create Twitter lists, basically you can go on Twitter to create a list. And if, for an example, you work in travel, we'll choose that one because it's easy. Say if you work in a travel industry, you can type in travel journalists or add on the list of travel journalists, and all of a sudden Twitter recommends like 200 plus travel journalists to follow. So Twitter recommends like to create this list, and they already give you contacts. So I create a lot of lists through Twitter, and I basically just follow travel journalists, and I'm like, hey, I've got the story and things like that. Like I'll just connect with them through Twitter really, and social media, and build it up that way. That's really where I started. And then I used different tools just to get their email addresses and just drop them an email. To be honest, most PRs are in the exact same position as everybody else in terms of just dropping them an email is the best form. Like you don't need to pick up a phone, you don't need to take them out for dinner, you don't need to do any of those old school stuff. Just dropping them an email with a really good story and they will cover it. And the way that I position my emails in terms of how I actually send it to press is write your email like an article. So I go say, hi Ellie, as an example, hi Ellie, I've got a story I think you might like, and then I just write the story like I'm writing for the Daily Mail. So I'll put I don't know, Copenhagen revealed as the most relaxing city break in new study, and then I'll have an image of Copenhagen, and then I'll have new study revealed, and I'll literally write it like an article, so they'll see with their own eyes, this is a good story, this is something I can near enough copy and paste. So yeah, that's where I kind of just do a real short, concise email that sums up the data, the study, couple of images. I'll have a Dropbox with some like image content in there that I just take from, you know, Unsplash or anything like that, and just push it out to press. So it's really quite simple.
That's a great tip. You're basically doing half the job for them, so it makes it really quick for them to, makes it easy for them to do their job because you've basically done half. Yeah.
Oh, 100%. I spoke to a journalist recently, and essentially she said that she writes like 10 articles a day. They don't have much time, so if you can make it easy for them, it helps.
Yeah, great tip there. Okay, other question from, who we should go for? Anonymous attendee. Amazing talk, Carrie. Oh, you've frozen on my screen. I'm hoping you're still there. Amazing talk, Carrie. What's the one thing that you think a lot of PR agencies are doing wrong at the moment? I think we have lost Carrie, unfortunately. So I'll maybe give it another 60 seconds to see if she comes back. But in the meantime, how did you all find that? Really useful. Good to hear that, Erin. Inspiring, great examples, actionable takeaways. If Carrie doesn't manage to come back, I will see if she can answer a few of these via email and then send them over to you. Yeah, okay. Would love to hear how often journalists write back saying they plan to publish or if they just have to track on their own end. Yep, great point. Just going to ping Carrie a message. Bear with us 2 seconds. Okay, I think we've lost Carrie, so I'm going to email her and maybe see if we can record this bit separately. In terms of the question about if we're going to share the recording and slides, yes, we will be for Content UK members next week, but you can, I'll send you a code for a month free trial, so you also get access to that for a month as well. Okay, thank you everyone, and yeah, as I said, hopefully we can get some questions over to Carrie and send those over to you. Thanks. Have a good afternoon, everyone.